Back now to other big stories of the day. Governor Spitzer isn't the first elected official who might be caught in a sex scandal. Not by a long shot. There's former President Bill Clinton, Idaho Senator Larry Craig, just to name two. Will Spitzer's career survive this just like theirs have? Michelle Jordan, a crisis management expert and CEO of Jordan LLC, joins me. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Charles, good afternoon. How are you?
I'm great. Listen, there's already talk that Governor Spitzer is going to retire, or resign rather, in the next 24 hours. So is there any possibility that he says, you know what, I can fight this off. It's not a big deal. A lot of people visit prostitutes. I made one mistake. Is there a slim chance he may decide to try to hold on to the governorship?
You know, it's astounding. How could he possibly get this so wrong? He's not President Sarkozy in France with divorcing his wife and marrying a younger woman. This was the governor of New York caught up in a smutty sex scandal. And I think that the dilemma that he's going to have, and the difference that he hasn't figured out, is that the Americans really don't have a stomach for the sexual meanderings of their politicians. They don't see it as a sort of a charming caper. And I think it's going to be very, very difficult for him to hang on. This story is going to continue to play out for a long time. But in terms of his political career, it's already over. He's toast.
Michelle, we should say, by the way, that all of these are alleged crimes at the moment. You know, Bill Clinton
They are indeed. Yes,
right. He was a
right.
Teflon politician, but it seems like over the last several years there's been a sea change with Americans. Is it possible for any politician to really be able to fight off things like this, things that aren't necessarily involved in their job performance, but obviously impact their character?
You know, I think it's an interesting question, and I think we are sort of getting a little bit more tolerant over this. I mean, if you look at the last election, the number of divorces we've had of politicians running and so on, but there's something sort of unsavory about this. The other issue that with Spitzer, I mean, he was really this stand-up guy. He was all about ethics, and in fact, when he was serving as Attorney General, he went after a prostitute ring and absolutely nailed it. I think there were 16 indictments. So for him to be caught in this kind of scandal, I'm not sure that we really have the stomach for it.
Why are sex scandals so, capture the public's imagination and have such a negative impact on politicians? It seems more than even monetary scandals or other types of scandals.
Yeah, you know, I mean, it's a very, very good question. I think this goes back, honestly, to sort of our Puritan ethic. You know, in some ways, we're so far behind Europe in terms of how we look at these issues. And we really, you know, there's not this great separation between the public and the private life. And sex, you know, one could argue is part of the private life, but it certainly does spill over into the public life. And it's interesting because, in fact, in Spitzer's remarks today, he tried to make that separation. He started by talking about his political career and then tried to position this latest go-round really as a public matter and apologizing to his wife. He's yet going to have to make a public apology, and that's going to be much, much tougher.
Real quick, Michelle, as a crisis management expert, if he called you tonight, what would you tell him? I'd
tell him he's got to manage it in the short term and he's got to manage it in the long term. In the short term, probably there's not a whole lot more he can say right now till all the facts are out. In the long term, there is evidence that if he takes himself out of the arena, really starts doing other things, he can emerge in a few years' time re-socialized.
Thank you very much, and great words of wisdom.